Okay, hello everyone, welcome to tonight's episode. Hopefully my voice is loud enough and probably in the middle of the episode I need to relocate. But for tonight's episode I thought of speaking about the idea of hidden strength from worlds within. And I've noticed something very interesting, that anytime the outer realms wants to deviate, or how would I say it? It's as if like there's an outer realm in front of the eyes, and then there's the inner realm, the whole subjective narrative of the world over what you see. And I would say the strength that comes from within is from a narrative. That means the story you're telling yourself suggests your strength. How many times do we see in movies, shows where it's either a coach or some sort of pep talk, where the person is going and saying, like it was Al Pacino in this movie, where he's like, "We're gonna die for that inch," you know? It's as if a story is adding to the potential of reality. I would say there have been many moments in my life where I haven't known what to do, and there was even a certain expectation of the outcome, a sort of inevitable consideration. But it was only where I could see from a different angle of how I was a character in the moment that something would change. Think of it that right now every human being had mastered outer realm mobility. Everybody was like a martial artist, Olympian level of athletics and whatnot. Now imagine we mastered movement in the outer realms and we wanted to master movement in the inner realms. We had moved in any way possible, in every way possible in front of our eyes, imagine. Then the only thing left to, in some sense, research or explore is movement of the psyche's position. Immanuel Kant, this philosopher, he created the term nirvana. It was his inner way of saying inner realm. And uh, in front of his eyes, he saw phenomenon. Behind his eyes, he saw noumenon. And the point of this episode is really that there is strength from noumenon. Right now, I am an object. I'm sitting here. I can notice my physical existence move. I can notice my voice box move. My ears hear the sound I generate. I notice that it's like there is something set in motion as the body. Now, the next component is how I'm a subject speaking to you. That means right now, I'm a subject in the void speaking to you, and you're a subject in the void hearing this. Which technically means we were never subjects. I find that we're all unknown witnesses of how far we've known so far of life. feel like, sorry guys, I'm outside. I feel like the light of my laptop screen is attracting a different audience. Hold on, guys. I think I have to relocate. I'll be back in a little bit, probably a few minutes. So stay tuned. Okay. So, thanks for waiting, everyone. Okay. Hopefully, the audio is proper. Back to the idea of the hidden strength from worlds within. There's a way we're living as an object, and there's a way where we're living as a subject. Now, the way where we're living as a subject can be said to be instantaneous, evocational. I would say that in human history, there is the idea of ceremony and ritual. Archetypally, it's about an allowance. So you can say that human beings, just like somebody in trouble, suddenly shouting for help, or somebody just something important. The person suddenly communicates, wants to make the outer realm. Or let me say it like this: that when the body can't move the mind moves the body. And vice versa. Right now, my physical existence is at a certain stability. From this stability, my subjective experience is moving. And what's fascinating, just like a captain on a ship, the captain of the ship, if the ship is sinking, has to take care of the ship. But the purpose of the captain being in the ship is not to just be in the ship. That means you're not, like, it would be as meaningless as, like, let's say a ship say journeying and sinking, and a ship never sinking but never journeying. It's as if same result. The result doesn't go anywhere. This idea of ceremony and ritual. When I was in India, Rishikesh, I was living in this ashram for 2 months. And very simple, minimalistic life. And in the early mornings, they would wake everybody up, and there was an Agni ceremony. And Agni is, I believe the word means fire. And so there was this ceremony, just in an ashram. It was like, some sort of, when I say ceremony, it was pretty much everybody waking up, half awake, kind of going around this fire. And this fire, that fireplace that was really taken care of, and treated like some altar by this one person. And everybody would go around, and this person would start saying like Agni, 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 like some super fast mantra, right? And so he would start the fire, and then as it would go one by one, people would throw something in the fire. This is in India, Rishikesh. And it was a very strange way to start off the morning. After that, people would go eat breakfast. So, but I could tell you that all ceremonial and ritual behavior is for authorization from the unknown to be known. That means, you see, right now we are on the side of the coin where known form is moving as unknown intelligence, let's say, or we are the known moving the unknown. We look at an unknown landscape and we're like, okay, let's call this a cup, let's call that a computer screen, let's call this a house, let's call this a, tree. So the idea of the ceremony and ritual was to access a new archetype. It was a transformation permission. So I would say hitting strength from worlds within when the outer realms are at a stasis, you know, or when your outer realms feel like it's stalemate, your inner realms, your mind comes in. There's been moments where I could say, like, the body literally, imagine you were walking somewhere and suddenly someone came up and said, you can't go any further. So that's what the body feels like. The body feels like if it was an astronaut suit in space, like you can have a certain mobility. But to comprehend the mind, it also means to comprehend boundless speed, boundless ability to imagine speed. That means the moment somebody sees, like, Superman in a movie, instantly, like Transformers, your mind sees a better car and transforms to that. Your minds, your inner realms get access to a way where form can exist, and they simulate it. So I would say the conscious mind is taking the unconscious seriously, but the unconscious is looking at the consciousness playfully. And I would say the soul was like the older brother of the mind, and the mind was the older brother of the body. And it's as if, like, when the body can't handle the problem, the mind comes in. When the mind can't handle the problem, the soul comes in. And if the soul still has some sort of dismissal, some sort of inefficient archetype, then the world steps in. The idea is pretty much evocation. So right now I'm saying these words, right? These words are evoking imagery. I would say the whole point of the ceremony was, in some sense, uh, consciously permitting oneself to be something else by having done something. There is this thing about shamans, like actual shamans. You study back in the day, they had these weird, I shouldn't say weird, but strange. They had these odd ways of divination, they called it. And so what it was like the person, let's say you were a shaman, you would get a bowl, you would put a feather in it, I don't know, a rock, like a bunch of other random stuff. Now you would have some sort of intuitive tour guide, and then as you throw all the stuff in this bowl down on the ground, the certain way they land on the ground, in accordance to the instant conscious viewer, it animates as knowing. So that means you could suddenly, out of nowhere, look at a branch of a tree, or look at something, any part of the moment. It doesn't matter if it's consciously, like, random stuff thrown, or you just zoom in on one part of the moment. And you can, from that single pointedness, notice something else going on, simply said. So you can say, we're an object that has realized it's a subject. Now, either it waits for the world to change or the body to change, and then it feels like the self has changed, or the self has to do something, has to literally activate in some way. That means kind of like, if you don't know how to move, at least keep it moving. Some idea like that. One can say the worlds within can be considered as memory. different memories you have are like different snapshots of the world within you. The ability to visualize is also a world within you. All your name and personality and story in life, all of that is within and subjective. So you know what it is? It's kind of like, I find where the way, if we were to actually really look at it from even a purely materialistic perspective, we are the inanimate hallucination. We are an animate mirage in an inanimate elemental dimension. That means two choices. Either we are an illusion of nature, we are a mirage of nature, or nature is a mirage of the true self, the true nature. See, we are creatures of nature too. We are like that tree. We are like that bird on the tree. We are like the feather on the bird. We are alive. And that word has such, it's like the human being's greatest honor. Something that it's like really deep down in the essence of the human design as a filter. That when life is being pushed out of the scene, then people get serious. One thing it has shown me, this, even though this coronavirus situation is a bit messed up, but I'll tell you, like, one thing it has shown me is that human beings care. That means we may not care for our future, but at least there is some level of care in the present. And you know, life sometimes takes you on a journey. It's like the person opens their eyes, oh my God, life, where are you taking me? And the life, all of life is like, hey man, there's nowhere to go, you're everywhere. As energy, we know everything that's going on. As a human personality, never. We know as far as the human design is access or defined. That means imagine the opposite. Imagine that right now, we all just believed everything was magic. Okay? Let's just say, we all believed everything was magic. How long would we go until we would be like, okay, enough of this magic. What else is there? You know, and imagine we went to the reverse and the world had no magic. How long would we go until we were like, okay, enough of no magic. Where's the magic? Where's the magic out? One thing is for certain, that the greatest value the temporary will find is to attempt the eternal. You know, there is a chaotic element in nature. It's as if like there's no easy way out. Something has to be endured. And I will tell you, if you believe the world is ordered, you will subconsciously notice chaos first. If you feel the world is chaotic, you will subconsciously feel order first. And this cycle has been going on as if chaos and order are giants and human civilization is happening on the shoulder. You know, we are on the shoulder of universal forces battling it out. And we're just, sitting in our corner of the universe being like, okay, let's create a podcast. It's like, who knew, you know? That was the purpose of evolution, at least in my experience. It's like we evolved so we can give podcasts. Forget survival. It's like survival of the voices now. I have personally, in certain moments of my life, evoked what I would consider let me choose the word properly, force. I have evoked forces from what I would consider not in the domain of the language threshold. So what does that mean? That means you can call it a sort of prayer, you can call it a sort of attention, meditation, but it's just a sort of urgency of command. You know, trust me, I'm one of those people who, like, you can see me very calmly, gently staring at like the sky, but deep down I'm like shouting at the sky. We haven't understood the chaos of loneliness yet. We haven't understood the chaos of cosmic loneliness. That means even though there's this inspiration for human beings to go from, their specific language-based tribes into a global tribe where we're united under, you can say, the human experience. That means it doesn't matter what cultural program you're from, what social ethnocentrism you've absorbed. It's as if we just realize we're human beings and our dreams are celestial. Interstellar civilization is the only route. I call this civilization 2.0 in the sense that eventually we will have to make the sky our home. An example of a hidden strength I've evoked. Let me see. I could tell you there was a moment I was in the UK 2014 and 15, and it was a very messed up situation. So messed up. Anyways, messed up situation. And for a moment it was as if I could say the sort of hidden strength from the world within that came was not per se something from within that came. It was literally as if for a moment the emotion that I was became an observer of my being, to a point where I could tell you the certainty, the way I was moving in that moment, the way I was moving, it wasn't with personality. It was with the certainty of the whole moment. And it's not a conditional certainty. That means I could tell you it was like a moment where it was so chaotic that my real name is Amin. So it was a moment where I realized Amin can't stand here. You know what it is? It's like being a general on a battlefield and seeing the soldier run forth, and the soldier is not ready, and the soldier really barely makes it back, and you're just like, okay, go back and restore your mark, you know? So it was one of those situations where for the first time, it was another force was in the driver's seat of my movement. And it wasn't a force where I can ascribe it a face, you know? I don't know how people have been doing that. Theosophists have hell of an imagination. But But I would tell you, it was simply just a current. It was a rhythm. You know what it is? Imagine like you're just in somewhere quiet and suddenly you hear the most beautiful music. And this beautiful music is so beautiful where your body's like dancing to it, right? It was a feeling like that
But it wasn't at that speed, it was so much faster. It was as if the body knew what it had to do. The mind didn't. For a second, when the ideological egoic construct for a second moved to the side, at the moment knew what to do. It's the strange thing of saying that for the first time, metaphysics has gone beyond metaphysics. It has gone beyond, I would say, the language threshold. I keep saying this term because it's a term I've coined, and I'll be honest, people don't realize it, but it is the most important concept for a conscious living being that is communicated. That there is a point where our experiences, our direct experience of life, is rooted in soil we cannot see. That soil we cannot see, where our direct experience is rooted in, is the language threshold. It's where, literally on a linguistic, subjective level, we are noticing the unobservable universe. By the way, welcome everyone to the chat section. These live streams happen, every day once, so feel free to ask questions or engage the topic. These ideas are open to global community of advanced communicators. There's 8 billion currently. This hidden strength, you can say it's like the love underneath the fear of life. You can say this hidden strength is the simplicity of your values before how complex your values are now as a human being. And I would say in that moment, in that situation I was, where there was another knowing at work, and I felt like I was watching it, but I was watching the moment as the moment. You know what it's like? It literally was like the soul to put my mind on its shoulders, as if like a father putting a little kid on their shoulders to see above the ground. Hidden strength can also be hope. And hope means there's another way the moment can happen still. It's as if life was an obstacle course. It's as if like how you get through the first obstacle courses suggests how the other obstacle courses arise. It's a sort of cause and effect obstacle course. Now, if we choose to see ourselves in the position of the effect, then world is moving self. It's as if you can say the religious community and the secular community, or let's say the scientific method and the religious method, none of them, they are both dismissing the individual. One is a solipsist revelation, the other is a nihilist revelation. Secular society has noticed emptiness first, then fullness. I would say the religious society has noticed fullness first, then emptiness. And the fullness is kept unknown on one side, and the emptiness is kept unknown in the other. And that's it. Because all of human knowledge, I'm telling you guys, if the person just keeps this one view in mind, I will tell you all of human knowledge goes through this portal. All of it. And it is the existential circumstance of, again, 8 billion creatures on a pebble in a light beam. I would say that's one of the only mantras I would say people should say. They should just sit down with a notebook beside them, a cup of tea, and put the pen on the notebook as if they have no intention of picking up the pen unless there's something to say. And the person just sits there and says, 8 billion creatures on a rock, 8 billion creatures on a rock in the middle of nowhere. Okay, let's make it like that. Imagine that's the mantra. 8 billion creatures 8 billion creatures on a rock in the middle of nowhere. 8 billion creatures on a rock in the middle of nowhere. Imagine the person keeps saying this mantra until what would they realize? They will realize the opportunity of the life. I have looked at it in so many ways. Aside from the word opportunity, nothing else fits this puzzle. That means as long as we are individuals, infinity is our work. We are infinitely working. That means any person who's felt ever tired of working, if you look at the concept and look at how vast the universe is, and you look at the human agenda of continuity to become interstellar, to not be a species that went extinct. Sometimes an emotion I find is teleportation to a memory. I totally feel it when I speak, that the words I say, what kind of emotions there are behind it and where the emotion comes from. And I am telling you, there's this quote ascribed to Leonardo da Vinci. I don't know if it's really from him or not, but the quote is spot on. The quote says, to develop a complete mind, study the science of art, study the art of science, learn to see, realize how everything is connected to everything else. So if everything is connected to everything else, by realizing the first thing, you have realized everything. Sometimes the hidden strength comes when you see there's nowhere else for it. You know, it's like the person can think of so many things, but now is the only time. And it's strange, you know, sometimes I feel like the planet is living through us. I feel that regardless of what human beings want, the planet is actually getting what it wants. A sort of collective intelligence in the world. I feel
if we are aware of change, we can never just be change. It could be that all of this manifestation is here, so we notice that what is observing change doesn't change. That the person perhaps has noticed their body change, their personality change, blowing different candles on different birthday cakes, but if you pay attention, it's like the person says, it's my birthday. You know, it's my birthday. You see, that my seems to be prior to birth, you know, just in the manner of speech. The same way we say my body, my mind, my soul, my world, myself. Who is this my? And that's the really attributeless. It's literally where psychology is one side of the coin and the other side of the coin is instantaneous energetic presence that could never be dualistically conceived. So at the edge of thought, you notice energy and attention just being. And then your total approach to how you do things changes. It doesn't mean karma stops. Karma is like, I don't want to say it's even started, but I'll say karma is literally like rent a car. You've rented a karma. You've rented manifestation. And at the end, you return this. Because the body gives us the sense of individualism, the individualism, due to its awareness, feels it has karma once it notices how the world is happening. So, and it's this strange thing. You can say if you go stand in a, let's say an orchard, it's like you get that kind of karma. You go stand beside a dumpster, you get that kind of karma. You go live in a chaotic place, you get that karma. You go live in an ordered place, you get that karma. You know? And really, when you realize that other side of the coin, your presence, that means my personality, my egoic construct, depending on its archetypal surrounding, all the archetypes hovering in unconscious. You know, it's hilarious. You can say people are worshipping either the world or they're worshipping their self. Or they're worshipping their self as the world or they're worshipping the world as the self. Sometimes through vocal command, you can evoke a new archetype. You could say an example would be a person looking in the mirror and being like, you got this. And then suddenly the person convinces themselves. You could say that's a mini ceremony. You know? Or that person like walking past like this pole between a canyon, between two cliffs, and the person's afraid of heights, and the person's literally telling themselves, don't look down, don't look down, don't look down. It's again a sort of example of self-ceremony. As an example where the mind is generating a pattern to stop the body from behaving in the same way. I think it's about time the species,
starts treating itself as a known body and an unknown mind. That means I think that's really, if people try this, the world becomes fascinating. People become fascinating. If you comparatively try to understand people, it is the case that you get actually slowly locked in a rut. But if you keep the world as unknown, you get to see it and move in so many ways. That means I will tell you it's strange, but sometimes not having an opinion in a moment that's multidimensional is like, for the first time, the whole picture that's been painted by different hands is missing. It could be that we are just 8 billion cosmic painters, and every lifetime we're just adding to the painting, and all these painters know what's going on. I remember playfully saying in one talk, imagine there were 8 billion advanced extraterrestrials outside of the atmosphere of Earth, okay? And suddenly, these 8 billion incredibly advanced extraterrestrials were like, are we ready? Everybody was like, yeah, we're ready, you know? And suddenly, instantly, imagine 8 billion advanced extraterrestrials from within, like Trojan horse style, decided to build an advanced civilization on Earth. And slowly, every being somehow deep down knowing why they are here. You know, I would say the more multidimensionally peaceful the world becomes. And I have no idea how there could be peace unless we have a multidimensional acknowledgement of reality. Because everybody wants something else out of it. Like everybody wants a piece of the pie, you know. So because everybody wants a piece of the pie, we gotta make more pies. That's simply it. We gotta just either infinitize our classifications of reality. That means way more complexity, add way more complexity to the system, or add simplicity. Imagine you're a chef, and simplicity and complexity are like salt and pepper, and you taste literally the food, and you're like, okay. You're like, okay, it needs salt. You know, you throw salt into the food. You know, you throw it as if you are like feeding pigeons. You know, but honestly, I don't know why people don't do this, but sometimes when I cook, I throw the food up in the air just to feel sort of aerodynamic. So any moment you can perceive and add dimensions of chaos or order, dimensions of order. And you know what's incredible? I hope to see the day where the future generations, they hear the past quickly. Imagine people hear the past quickly and they just realize what we haven't explored yet. That means my greatest strategy is to try to make the future generations see the blind spots. You know what it's like? It's literally like we are 8 billion explorers with lanterns in a forest. Okay? And so it's like we're here for 100 years with this lantern in our hand in this dark cosmic forest, and we have only a certain time to explore. Now, depending on your speed, you can really explore before the light goes out. Because when I think about my mind is not a thought to me, so I don't have any fear on it. At most, I would say I would be shocked, but shock is not fear. So the mind is not something to be afraid of. It's literally how you keep yourself as a subject. But the body is the main thing. And if we can somehow, I wouldn't say we become immortal, but we create immortal environments. Can you imagine 8 billion birds flying in the sky in a synchronistic way? Now, can you imagine 8 billion pilots and advanced communicators, pilots of consciousness? Everything can be alive if the mind and psychology of an 8-year-old child can see a teddy bear as its best friend. That literally means the world is waiting for the mind to move it, the intelligence to move it. You know, when you see the potential of the self before the potential of the civilization, you get civilization 1.0, the civilization we're in right now. But if you see the potential of your world first, then the potential of yourself, that indirectly yourself is included. That means a victory for your civilization is a victory for you also. And you know, there is something about, one sentence I could say, one phrase that I could say dwells, in the economical sector is to create jobs. I mean, just think about that sentence, to create jobs. Now, let's say you are a person doing chaotic activity or a person doing boring, ordered activity, and you hear this sentence, you gotta create jobs. Let's say whatever class of civilization you're in, you just hear that sentence. That technically means the idea of work on this planet has to be created. You can just hear the sentence differently, not just create jobs as in like other people can have work, but you create new ways, new human activities. And so I'm saying that if you are behaving chaotically in the system, you could literally like stop and go create something new. It's like the entrepreneurial energy or momentum is not just in starting, like, for example, a business. It is sometimes like living in a way where, uh, firstly, your eyes deserve, and secondly, living in a way your world has never seen. That means, I will tell you, sometimes to be uh, different in a world defining itself by the past is a suggestion, is a poetic suggestion from the future. It's kind of like, if normal doesn't feel normal, then normal was never normal. You see, it would be so much easier if people were just said this earlier in life, that your body is living a life and your mind can live a life. That viewer within is living a way more luxurious life than the body. The mind is living like a king because the desire is an instant manifestation for it. But the body suffers. If you desire too much, the body's like, what is this? The mind's just partying without me. It's like, that's what happens when you only have dreams, but you don't actually awaken them. You know, and something I've never been asked since 2014, where I started these talks, is that I consider myself also to be my greatest critic. So I would say the question that I haven't been asked is simply, if the truth is beyond the language threshold, why do you speak? Aside from artistic freedom of expression, I would say it's the simple conclusion that there is no greater game to play, which I would say I pretty much want to see what the most advanced effort of the human species is before I close my eyes. Just to see what it would be like, you know. It's as if a person can have so many beliefs and disbeliefs, but if they were truly fascinated about a subject, they will be pulled to the core. You know, it's as if there are some swordsmen who they don't want to waste time, so they want their first move to be instant, like instant victory. So imagine you're on a battlefield back in the day, you have a sword, and there's, let's say, a bunch of people with shields and swords. Like a group of people, you have to fight someone. Let's say you're an outnumbered samurai. So what you would do in that case is try to make every hit as efficient as possible. So most likely, the samurai should, when there's 12 people, you should probably immobilize them. But anyways, the idea is precision with efficient vision.
It would be as if, think of the idea of the ritual and ceremony, but we try to do a ceremony at the speed of light. It would be instant. It's like every human being is changing the world, and we're definitely changing the CO2 content of the world. You know, this is on a tangent, but I would say I just thought that we should try to honor the ancients and actually divide maybe the academic system into the five elements of earth, air, fire, water. And each symbol branches out into the explanation of all the other fields of knowledge, all the other branches. From the element of earth, we learned about how we're here. From the element of fire, we learned how there could be chaos. From the element of, you can say, water, we learned gentleness, simplicity, focus. And from the element of wind, we learn to endlessly go forth. The wind is the perfect metaphor for the soul. As a child, I remember I was very young. I was afraid of the dark, and my background's from Iran. And I asked my mother, "What should I do?" And I remember she had a, you know, religious background, and she said, "Say the name of." There was this prayer, and she told me to say it 7 times. And I would say this prayer 7 times. This, you can say, phrase 7 times, and then I would sleep, and I would have no problem. You know, because I trusted my mother, because I trusted the moment. You know, it worked. But I wondered years later, why did it work? You know, and I can tell you there was an emotion. That's an example of an emotion being a portal. Where I remember I was in my bed. Let's just imagine a young version of me, you know. And I'm in this bed as a young kid saying these 7 prayers, 7 times saying this prayer. And I would remember sometimes in the middle of it, I would yawn and I would start over. So,
So I would say these 7 prayers, and with every time I would say it, it was as if there was something happening with confidence. It was as if each action of saying the prayer once, twice, third time, fourth time, fifth time, it was as if something was solidifying by the mere act. That means little did I realize it didn't matter how I had interpreted or what solution I was given. It was just something that it was an activity that in creating the activity, I felt I was the source again. You know? So it was, you can say, an activity that was taking my attention, was giving my attention back. My attention had gone to the darkness. By simply doing this activity, my attention was coming back. You know? So I'm simply saying, it took me a while to realize how beautiful the darkness is. As much as the light, you know, it's like the contrast of life. There's a quote from Aristotle. He says, "It is during our darkest moments that we must focus to see the light." And that's true, because unless you turn on the light, you have no idea what you're looking at, what you're seeing. So if you need light to see, again, then the first action is, you know, plan of action is to see the light. Rabindranath Tagore, I guess, has a version of the same wisdom. He says, faith is like a bird that feels like, I don't remember the exact quote, but the imagery is like, at the darkest hour of night, the bird feels like the warmth of the sun on its wings, and it's like the light comes at the darkest hour. That means after every experience of darkness, there is an experience of light. And then there's an experience of darkness, there's an experience of light, until the person learns to see the whole yin-yang. Your whole moment is balancing the dualism where your personality is arising from. I would say an emotion is a portal, but let me tell you what kind of portal it is. It is a portal between the outer realm and the inner realm self, the outer realm self and the inner realm self. It's as if there's a vertical multidimensionality, let's say a vertical spirituality and a horizontal spirituality. Okay? The vertical spirituality is like a collective destination. The horizontal, we can say, is an individual destination. That means right now, imagine my voice, the sounds you're hearing, to be a portal for the imagery of from my inner realms stepping into your inner realms in the act of communication. Now, right now, as I'm speaking, how I feel about this moment is between this outer self that I am, that I'm speaking, and all the probabilities and potentials of everything else beyond. So what I'm saying is, or you can see your physical self as a portal between the endless unknown of the outer realms and the endless unknown of the inner realms. That means evolution made an object become a subject to itself. There's something mysterious going on. That means language is hollow. And if language is hollow, there is no truth that can be shared. There is an experiential presence, though. And so really the direct experiencer, its wisdom is beyond stories, so you don't need a story to be happy. And stories can't make you sad, really. That means anything can make you sad if you choose to zoom in and then totally become oblivious that there's another way the world can work. But I don't know. I would say right now, the strength of my mind is really from what it considers in regards to where it's heading. So I would say how you perceive even the image of your own future suggests your energy levels. It's just we're being ushered into a new phase of humanhood. And let me say this very clearly. Nobody on earth knows, including myself. What I know is like just a certain depth I've looked into. I could tell you the only time I have found an absolute truth was a truth where I was never here. So it's as if what happens when in a simulation, in a simulated world, the simulated self realizes it's not from that world. It doesn't mean it thinks it's not from that world. It means it knows the simulation is real because the truth is beyond the simulation. So what I'm saying is, imagine it's 120 years from now and there's some mishaps, and you're a child born in cyberspace. And you're living your life thinking like, yeah, this is reality. I've been here from the beginning of my life. I was born here. But suddenly you start seeing glitches in the system. You know? And so it would be a moment where that child would be like, whoa, where am I? And so imagine that child suddenly opens its eyes in the outer realms, but now they're the virtual reality goggles, let's say, that gave access to sensor cyberspace. It, imagine it was a virtual reality goggle for a pirate. So, so imagine this person opens his eyes. One eye is in the actual, real life, and one eye has the, pirate virtual reality patch, and like that pirate virtual reality patch is shown in cyberspace. So that person sees both lifetimes, sees both ways of life simultaneously. Now imagine the way you see life simultaneous that is beyond the simulation of the world is nothing here can relate to it. So how would you speak about it? And this is where all the poets in the world were like, I got this. Poetry was like, I got you. And what I mean by that is poetry is shaking language. And this shaking of language means you pilot language to the edge of the language threshold. Right when you're about to reach the edge, you pilot back down. You know? And by doing this, the conscious experience moves beyond where it's set. So anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I will be on Discord in a couple minutes, probably 10 minutes. And there will be a topic, but I'll share it when I get to this. And one last thing to say. Whatever you think your species knows, because we want to know more, we know nothing. And that is a sort of scholarly honor. So, anyways, guys, the talk is will end here, and the Discord link is shared for those interested in the School of Athens 2.0 discussions. Anyways, there's one more thing I gotta say. Hidden strength from worlds within. Let's say you find this hidden strength. Now, the point of the hidden strength is, it's like, think of it again as the mind being the older brother. You need that hidden strength until your unhidden strength is back to normal. You see, mastery means you have even experienced an egoless view to the craft that you're doing, to the art. So I would say the inner points to the outer points to the inner. If we want to conclude in the outer, it's empty. If we want to conclude from the inner, there is the possibility where the attention from within notices or remembers a moment where there is no within or without. And that's when you can say the shackles of language, in some sense, are broken. That means the person knows better than to fight the chaos or worship the order. You become a being first, then you live as a human. You're a being first, then human language, human ideology, human culture. And it is okay for any person who has the audacity, the daring to, at any time, entertain this linguistic simulation of a civilization, but to also instantly step out and act as if nobody knows anything. What now? As if, imagine 8 billion human beings had just teleported here. How would you reinvent the story that human beings have been telling themselves for so long? And imagine in the middle of reinventing the story, you realize everybody's eyes is trying to step out into it. I would say it's as if it's the sleeping giant scenario. There are 8 billion geniuses on this planet. But few have found their eyes in the mirror, their true eyes. Anyways, thanks for listening, guys. I'll be on Discord. Blessings.